We can do better. We can do better.
Okay, let's see if that works. Wait, is that even live?
Why do you have to set yours up against mine?
I don't know. Okay. You can start to introduce it because I am confused. Or maybe start over. I don't know how to do this.
Hey, we got one person on. 2. Hi, Janelle.
Hi, Janelle. We're trying to figure out how to record a podcast, do Instagram Live on my phone, and a Facebook Live on Sean's.
I think we're ready.
Okay.
For some reason, she's got to lean her little phone setup against my phone setup, which causes this tower effect.
Okay, now I gotta push record on the podcast.
Who likes Spider Mitchell?
Okay.
Who knows who Spider Mitchell is?
Shoot. Okay, I think we're ready. Okay, hi everybody. So we're trying to multitask here. We're recording a podcast, we're doing an Instagram Live and a Facebook Live. So we got Sean's and my phone all set up right here. We're trying to be in the frame as well and share a microphone because I have 2 microphones, but I can't seem to set it up correctly because the audio just doesn't sound good when I have the 2 different microphones. This is the better microphone, so we're just sharing the microphone. But anyway, the purpose of this podcast / live video is to talk about marriage, or in other words, we're going to talk about how to argue. We're going to share all of our tips on how to argue really well, because I think I'm really confident in saying that we are experts at arguing. We've had a lot of fights over our 16 years of marriage, and we've gotten really good at reverse engineering it and figuring out, like, how did it start, first of all, and what could have we done better? Where did we go wrong? All those different things. So today we're going to talk about a few different points that we wrote down, and hopefully you guys can learn from our millions of mistakes over the years. But it's good because we've stayed together, so somehow we've managed to resolve all of our issues. Well, not all of them, because we continue to have.
It's because I'm incredibly forgiving.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I just wanted to start by sharing our most recent argument, which really wasn't like that bad, but it is just interesting when we do kind of dissect it and look back on what actually happened. This is what happened. So the night before yesterday, I received an email that made me feel really bad. And I tried to do like my own self-coaching. I tried to coach myself through it, and I did a little writing about it and tried to think about it in a good way, but I don't think I fully processed it because I woke up the next morning with lingering feelings of like rejection, sadness, a little bit of anger, like a lot of different things. So, and then Sean like went off to the gym, and then he called me and he was just kind of giving me an update of what his plan was for the day. And I think he immediately noticed that I was a little bit short with him, and kind of, he always can sense when I'm in a bad mood. So he was just, asking me what's wrong. And I was just like, just finding all these reasons to be mad at him. I'm like, well, you did this, and I don't like when you say that, and I was really mad when you did this yesterday, and like finding like everything that I was mad about. And he was just like, what is going on? And then I was just starting to cry and getting all emotional, and then I was like, okay, fine, I think it's because of an email that I received last night, and I'm just still upset about that, and I think I'm blaming you and for how I'm feeling, and trying to find all these reasons why it's your fault, even though that email had nothing to do with him. But it is just funny how, if you really think about it, sometimes we can mistreat other people or start an argument with another person out of the blue because because of something that we have that's unresolved within us, something that has caused us to feel a certain way. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with the other person. And I think that's where we're getting better at identifying, wait a minute, are there some underlying issues here? Something that you're saying that it is this, but maybe it's not really that. Maybe there's something deeper. And Yeah, what do you think about that, Sean?
So what Crystal's leaving out is that it takes time.
Yeah.
So it takes time, and
Here, let me move this closer.
Sure.
Okay.
I've had to get better at, I'm trying to get better at not taking things personal, because it's human nature, it's natural. Well, for me it is. If someone attacks me, I feel the need to attack back, or I feel the need to be defensive and, and defend myself. And so with all that said, I'm trying to get better at not just immediately reacting and defending myself. And I'm also trying to, and Crystal's trying to get better with the same, right? So we're also trying to get better at not just hitting back with everything we've got. And that's what I think we've done a lot of our marriage is one person has something going on, could be completely unrelated to our relationship. And instead of us contemplating that, what could that potentially be? What we historically did was focus on that energy, even though that energy is not the real issue. It's not the stimulus. And we would focus on that energy, and then we would just go to war over that energy, right? Mm-hmm. And so when she talks about reverse engineering it, you have to start to look at your life as a whole. Like right now, I know this is a good example. Right now with COVID, I really think that people are going crazy. Well, I know they are. I know that people are going crazy, and rightly so. It's just different time. It's just different things. It's you hear about people who are suffering and hurting, and this is having a profound effect on people's hormones and on their emotions. Now you have to ask yourself, what effect is it having on our relationships? And are we even considering that effect? Like if you were a husband and a wife, or if you were in a relationship with someone, and let's say that you guys have been at each other's throats, have you guys, and it just keeps on recurring, and maybe you're even saying to yourselves, like Crystal and I at different times, we've even said over 16 years, there's been times where we said, we can't stop fighting.
Yeah.
What does it mean about us? Like, what does this say about us if we literally cannot stop fighting? And we'd be so proud of ourselves if we even went like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If we went 2 weeks without fighting, we'd be like, oh my gosh, we have not fought in forever.
Like so long.
And then we would that would pretty much stimulate a fight. It's like, oh, we haven't fought in a while.
Like we're due for a fight. Like we've gone way too long.
So with all that said, like I think we're stepping into some growth. Not that we have stopped fighting. We're not afraid of fighting, Crystal and I. There's been a handful of times where it got to unhealthy levels, and we said things we shouldn't have said, and she hit me with a bat once. I threw her out of the car once. That's when it got a little too much.
Stop. People are gonna actually take that, like they've hopped on for like 1 minute and then hopped off. Did you hear what Sean said?
Yeah, that's good stuff. Anyway, but the bottom line is, no, there's been a handful of times where it got a little nutty and on both of our ends. But we have had to take an adult. We've had to behave as adults and start to, as Crystal said, the words were reverse engineer. Where is this coming from? And wow, that's pretty powerful. If you'll just stop fighting for a minute and then just evaluate it and start to get in tune with your own intuition and your own body and your own emotions. But in order to do that, you've got to stop, right? Stop fighting. So sometimes Crystal will even say,
well, it's hard to stop fighting in the moment, but you can like separate yourselves from each other so that you can calm down. I think that's probably like the best thing that we could do is just say, let's take a minute. We need a breather. Let's be away from each other so we can sit in the corner and think about what we've done.
It would be nice if we communicated to each other like in that way, but usually Crystal will be like, leave me alone. And I think she's trying to say like, I need some space, but to me it just sounds like, I don't know, like it just makes me want to get my point across even more, which is so, it just causes this horrible spiraling thing. What happened yesterday was, see, I had read this quote recently that said, when someone is mad at you, when someone is angry with you, or they're talking badly about you, they're seeing it, oftentimes they're seeing in you something they don't like about themselves. So even though this situation that Crystal was referring to really had nothing to do with me, I was in a good, healthy state because I didn't take offense. I didn't get defensive, even though she was attacking me. And what I did was I kind of just started to say, what is this about her? What is this about her? Does it have anything to do with me? I mean, yeah, I make mistakes and I blow it, but does this particular fight have anything to do with me? And then I just started asking questions. Crystal was like spewing all these things at me, like she said. And then I asked her, I said, why are you being mean to me? Like I just asked her that. Why are you being mean to me? And then I said, I don't even want to fight. I don't even know. I just don't know why you're being mean to me. I felt like I've done a good job lately. And I just let her think on that, and then it was cool because then she came back, like, it takes humility, right? And Crystal came back. Now this has gone both ways. There's been many times where I'll be angry and volatile and attacking at all my children, and not like attacking, but you know what I mean. I'm picking at them and I'm critical, and then all of a sudden, like Crystal, sometimes she'll say, I just think you're in this horrible, awful mood. I don't know what happened, but you're in a horrible, awful mood. And then it causes me, if I'm in a decent, healthy state, I can actually pause and say, oh, like, I can take that feedback. That's, she knows me very well. Why would I be in a horrible mood? And then you can stop, and then you can reverse engineer and think about, what stressors are you under currently? What's causing it? You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Remember that thing we read that talked about how usually when you fight, it's for one or two reasons. One of them was the fear of loss. And what was the other one? Do you remember?
Not being respected or something like that.
I think it was.
I can't remember.
I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
But just knowing these kinds of things about yourself, I'm telling you, if you can get in tune with your own emotions and start to understand what certain feelings are telling you, and then kind of just start to break that down and digest that, reverse engineer it, wow, like this is real empowerment. And we are not the ones that can brag about having this stuff perfected.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought of another reason why we can start fights unintentionally. Well, like subconsciously, I think there's a part of us that, if you imagine little kids, sometimes they misbehave or they do things and you're just like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with them today? But then you realize, oh, they just need a little love. They need a little attention. And I think that sometimes we can do that as adults, for me especially. And I don't mean to do it, but when I think back and I'm like, I think I just like needed a little love from Sean, and like we still, that inner child thinks that the way we get love is by misbehaving or doing something to stir things up, because in one way that's how we get attention. So it's almost like our inner child comes out and we don't really realize that we can actually say what we need. Like, hey, Sean, I need a little time with you. I need to talk with you, or I need some love or attention, but it's funny how we still do that as adults.
We do that, but what else, another thing that's funny about that is, why are we so afraid to ask for what we want? Why are we so afraid to, and you and I have gotten better about this over time. I'll identify that Crystal really does need my attention. She needs me to listen to her. She needs to have a connection. To periodically we need to form an emotional connection, and periodically, actually frequently, we need to form a physical connection. Very frequent. But the emotional connection, I'm starting to pick up on it when Crystal really is needing an emotional connection. And I've actually just started asking her, like, hey, Crystal, I understand you're angry or I understand you're upset, but would it, do you want my attention? And then she'll say, yes. Then why don't you ask for it? You see what I'm saying? But I think that's not fair because sometimes you don't realize that's what you really want until,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think I've gotten better at that, which I'm really proud of. I've gotten better about, wait a second, is she really this critical of me normally? No. That's one of the things we learned about fighting, remember? Like you have to ask yourself, did I feel this way yesterday?
Yeah.
How did I feel about him yesterday?
Yeah.
Did I feel this way about him 2 days ago? Or did I feel this way about him last week?
Yeah, because when we're fighting, we're usually saying, you always do this. You always say that. You're always acting like this. But even like, it's funny because the day before, one of us will be like raving about how much we love each other. And like, oh, you're so amazing and for this reason and that reason. And then the very next day we can forget it all and be like, you're always this way and like all the bad. And we're like, but you were just saying all these good things about me yesterday. Did you forget how amazing I am?
I think we have like, if you've ever seen the movie called The Notebook.
Yeah.
I actually like that movie, I'll admit. Mainly because I think it's hilarious how hard they fight. And then they come back together, just as passionately. They come back together and they're like, I hate you. And then they come back together, and it's the love is just as strong as the hate, or even stronger, of course. But that's what Crystal and I do. And I think over time, we're getting better about this. Don't you think? Mm-hmm. I think we're getting better about this. Luckily for us, the chemistry is there. It always draws us back to one another. So that's important. Mm-hmm. And I think it's give and take, don't you think? Sometimes you're in a space where you're like more evolved than me and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna make amends. I'm gonna make a gesture. Sometimes it just takes making a gesture, right?
Yeah. Touch
their hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're wrong. It really doesn't. And that's where we get confused. As human beings, we get confused because we think, oh, if I touch his arm or I touch her shoulder, she's going to think that I'm wrong and they won.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's just a bridge that,
yeah, because usually we can have, once we've both calmed down, we can have the conversation in a calm way where we're not attacking, we're not blaming, but we can really take responsibility for the parts that we played. But it's hard to do that when we're in a state of anger. So we do have to let ourselves calm down first, and we can be the first one to make the gesture of, maybe saying sorry or being, the first one to kind of try to make amends. But that doesn't mean that you lose. And neither does it mean nor does it mean that you have to win an argument. Like, I think that's where we go wrong, is where we think that we have to win. What if we just decided that there is no winning? Mm-hmm. There's just listening and trying to have more compassion. Each time we fight, we can have it be a goal to have more compassion for the other person, meaning we're trying really hard to step into their shoes and see the world from their perspective, because we do see things very differently. And that's a fact. That's never going to change. So we might as well get really good at just practicing compassion, trying harder to understand what is life like through your eyes? What is life like? Like, how could I try to see your perspective? I don't have to agree with your perspective. I just want to see it, just because then that way I can just be more accepting and allowing of it, right?
Yeah, so about what you're saying, I want to give an example of that you've actually helped me a lot. With the children, oftentimes I see things as very black and white. So if I tell them, to do something overall, or if I give them any kind of a caution or instruction, if they don't do it the way I want them to do it, then I would actually accuse them of being disobedient. And oftentimes, when they would try to defend themselves, I would listen to these stories and what I thought were excuses and what I thought was, them just being evasive. And I would call them liars. I wouldn't say you're a liar, but I'd be like, that's like lying. I think you're lying right now because you know better. And I told you this and da, 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 da. And Crystal's like, Sean, until you can step into that person's space, if you could step into their body with their mind, with their emotions, with their level of learning, that's the only way that you would know how they're seeing it. I don't really think that they're lying. It's just that they actually see that thing differently than you. And that's been helpful for me.
Yeah.
It really has been helpful for me. And with our relationship as well, it's been helpful to know that Crystal, based on Crystal's upbringing, based on her, her parents, her environment, the way she was taught, the way she learned, the way, and mine being different, you have to be more tolerant even towards your own spouse. And unfortunately, towards our spouse or towards the people we love the most, we actually find ourselves being the most intolerant, which is unfortunate. Mm-hmm. We're hardest on the ones that we love the most. Think about that. We're hardest on the ones that we love the most. I often think about, if two siblings bumped into each other walking in the kitchen, then the one sibling will go, "Gosh, you jerk, get out of my way. What are you doing?" And then the other one fires back. But I always tell my kids, like, if Lily, for instance, bumped into her friend Savannah in the kitchen, it's just grace. There's nothing. There's no judgment on it. There's no contention. Oh, no problem. That's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to get better at that. All of us, I think everyone, we just need to get better at giving each other some grace. I think oneness helps. Mm-hmm. I actually really believe that if you view your partner or your family as part of you, I think it could be very useful. I think, yesterday at the gym, when I saw that Crystal really something was hurting her, I actually felt inclined to go home. I did. And so I went home to be with her and to hug her and to, to comfort her. And what's cool is she had a great day yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying about the child. Like, they just need a little love sometimes. And that's all I needed was Sean to come home, give me a hug, and I just needed to cry it out. And then I instantly felt better. I just needed that. And sometimes that's all we need is a little bit of, a safe space to share how we're really feeling without judgment, and then the love. And then you're able to let it go and move on. And I also wanted to bring up more about how we have our, miscommunications and the misinterpretations, and how you wrote down on this paper how you can have the number 6, and it depends on where you're standing, whether you're going to call it a 9 or a 6. And that's totally such a good analogy. And also I love the Byron Katie's analogy around that in her book, Loving What Is. She talks about how everything that we see in our life is a projection of our own thinking. So, and sometimes we look at other people and we see flaws in them, but we don't realize that the flaw is actually on the projector itself. So it could be like a piece of lint or a scratch on the projector, and we're seeing it. Every person that steps into the screen, we see the flaw on them. And so we're thinking it's the other people, and we're desperately trying to change the other person and tell them how they're flawed. But we don't realize that the flaw is actually on the projector itself, meaning it's coming from our thoughts. The flaw is only in our thoughts. Mm. So when we shift the way we're thinking, or if we just clean the projector, clean out our minds, choose different thoughts, then we realize that we see the world completely different, and we see people differently. And we no longer do we see those flaws, because we've actually done the work, the inner work, and worked on ourselves and our own thoughts, so that we can see the world in a beautiful, clean way.
That's crazy. I was just having this thought about what you just shared. Could this be the case? I remember I was working out. I was probably about 18 years old. At that time in my life, I was training really hard. I was going to play Division I football. And my physique was good. And I was at the gym, and I remember my dad was training me, and this guy, he kept staring at me. The whole time I was working out, he just stared at me the entire time. And I remember it started to bother me, and at that age, I was very, your testosterone's going crazy, and you just, you're
Come on, you want to fight?
And so I was feeling like that, actually.
Yeah.
I actually was. I said to my dad, I go, that guy's staring at me. And then a little while later, I said, he's still staring at me. And, this went on for 30, 40 minutes. And so finally I go, gosh, dang it, Dad, he won't stop staring at me. And then, and then my dad said, Sean, he probably actually appreciates your build, and he's probably just admiring your build. Whether that's true or not, it's a healthier way to look at it.
Yeah, you have the choice right there. Which one do I want to think? Because either I'm going to feel confrontational or a bit angry, or I'm going to feel very proud and like, oh, I'm looking good today. I'm looking good. Yeah. So you're like smiling instead of like giving him the evil eye.
This is what you and I always say. What is true? Crystal and I ask ourselves this all the time, and this is very helpful for you, for all of us. What is true? Because what is true for you may not be true for everyone. What is useful? And you can actually decide your own feelings and thoughts and beliefs and around everything. You can decide what is about it.
Yeah.
And it can be very, very powerful, because what good is it to carry negative energy? Like around that email that Crystal got, she just didn't realize in that moment that she could choose how to interpret that.
Yeah, absolutely. I initially, I think it's like a knee-jerk reaction. I want to make it mean something negative about me, and it's hard to let that go. It's almost like that's the way I've thought for so long, that my brain's just like, no, this is what we do. This is what we think. When people send you an email like that, then this is the way you're going to think, instead of like pausing in the moment and choosing a new way to look at it and just not making it mean anything about me. And that's been hard for me. That's something that I'm working at, but I think I'm getting better.
I think we're getting better too. I do. I think we're getting better. Crystal reads a lot of books, and I always tell Crystal I pay attention to a lot of things in life. I mean, I read a lot too, but not books. But what I do is I love to study, observe. That's the word. Observe your environment, observe people's behavior, observe their personalities, observe everything. Just take it all in. You could be sitting there at the DMV and you could decide you're bored out of your mind. Believe it or not, you can just look around and you can learn a lot about different things if you're willing to just be in that moment, be present, be aware, and observe all kinds of interactions and the dynamics behind everything and how things work. And in fact, this is how a lot of people become successful. There's a lot of people that become wildly successful and they don't know a lot, but they're observant, and in that way, they kind of figure out what works.
Yeah, and I think Lily is our oldest, is so like that. And you told me that you were at her age, you were very much like her, just very quiet and reserved, but always listening, always paying attention, just being so observant. And that's what I noticed with Lily, and it's kind of cute to see like how she just is taking it all in. Like she can spend an entire weekend with me and my sisters and not be bored at all, because she's just, and not even say anything, but she's learning so much because she's just observing us. And she, I think, she finds that it's all very interesting to her, and I can see that about her. She's just never bored, but she loves to listen and to learn just by watching people.
Yeah. Well, cool. This was great to be with you guys. I think we covered everything here.
Yeah.
I guess if anything, we could give you hope. We have fought. I mean, oh my gosh, how many times have we fought? But you know what? We always come back and we grow from these things. And Crystal, you made a good point. Maybe you can close with this. She made a fun point. sometimes you just feel like fighting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're just like, life is kind of boring.
Yeah. Like over Thanksgiving weekend, I was saying that because it was like so perfect and so relaxing and I guess even uneventful, but that sounds like it was boring. But no, it was like so perfect and easy and just light and no stress. And then at the end, I think that like there was like, maybe it was also both of us were like, it's been too long. We need to fight because we just found the stupidest thing to fight about and I can't even remember what it was, but we're like, all right, we're going to fight about this. Let's fight. We need some action going on here.
It takes two to
it's
tango.
Too easy.
It takes two to tango. I think we were craving some drama.
Yeah, it was just too uneventful and we needed some drama, so
I always say we're in it for the makeup sex.
Yeah.
I always say that. I think it's some subconscious thing like, how do we spice it up a little? Let's get really mad at each other and hate each other, and then
Come closer.
we'll come when we make up. It's gonna be off the hook.
Yeah, that's what motivates Sean.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, I think I'm gonna pick a fight with her. It'll be good. Now, the payoff will be later. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Grow beyond that crap.
Yeah, we can skip right to the spiciness. We don't have to hate each other first. All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been fun. We haven't really done. I think we've only done this like one other time where we recorded live. So sorry, our faces are covered with the microphone, but you got to see how this goes behind the scenes.
Yep.